Welcome back to The Cabin Podcast. I'm Andrea Belke.
And I'm Megan Christian.
The Cabin is brought to you by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the WCA Group Health Trust. And today we have a little bit of a different episode for you. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we both are very passionate about mental health. We thought it'd be really cool to highlight an organization that actually was founded in Wisconsin, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Yes, so we have two very special guests coming in. Nancy Abraham, she's one of the founders of NAMI, and Mary Kay Battaglia, who is the executive director for NAMI Wisconsin. Just want to throw a little trigger warning out there. We are talking about mental health, mental illness, schizophrenia, depression, suicide. So if you feel uncomfortable at any points during the episode, feel free to skip out on those parts, but just be aware.
Yeah, I think it's a really important conversation. There's a lot of conversation about what still needs to be done, a lot of conversation about hope, and it was really an honor to have these two ladies on the couch. So enjoy the episode. We have one of the original founders of NAMI here with us today, Nancy Abraham. Hello.
Hello.
We are so happy to have you here. We are also joined by the executive director of NAMI Wisconsin, Mary Kay Battaglia. Mary Kay, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, I am just so happy to have you both here. I have been volunteering with NAMI for a few years. I really believe in the cause, and I'm excited to learn more about it. Let's just start out, Nancy, since we have you here, of just how NAMI came to be. Can you kind of take us back to those beginnings?
I'll do my best. I'll have to go back to 1977 in order to indicate how NAMI National came about. It was in 1977, after my son had been ill with schizophrenia for 3 years, that NAMI Dane County, then it was known as AMI, the Alliance for the Mentally Ill. That verbiage changed to Alliance on Mental Illness. But there were about 12 of us who formed the county, Dane County, AMI, in 1977, in April. So that's 48 years ago. And then we began to get newsletters from other organizations around the country, and we were sending our newsletter, because we had a newsletter right away, to other organizations, and found out that this was a problem, a situation, a set of circumstances for many, many families across the United States. And so with help from Roger Williams, who was with UW Extension here in Madison, the mental health area, we got a lot of help from him in not establishing initially, but calling the first national conference of families. And I need to inject here, if I can just take a break from where I'm going. There were mental health associations, but they were not receptive to families. And so there was nothing for families, and we were at a period of time where individuals, because of medications becoming more and more available, were no longer necessarily institutionalized for long periods of time. And so here we all were. And now what? So it was private psychiatrists, and that's very difficult with someone with schizophrenia, at least certainly in those days before Clozaril, now clozapine. So 284 people came to the conference. There were a few individuals who themselves had a serious brain disorder of mental illness, but primarily families and some professionals. In one weekend at the Wisconsin Center, now known as the Pyle Center in Madison, we formed what is NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
How would you describe the advocacy change from mental illness when you started NAMI to what it is now?
That's a really interesting question. I wish I had some of my former compatriots here also. We were angry, really angry, about the lack of services for people, our relatives. And it was anger that drove us initially. But of course, if you stay in a state of anger, you're not going to get very far, right? But it was certainly a motivating force. And we just learned everything we possibly could learn, about the statutes in the state of Wisconsin for us in Wisconsin, everything we could learn about how the county was delivering services and what services they were supposed to be delivering, and learning from one another and bringing in professionals to learn more about the serious mental illnesses, because we had monthly program meetings in our local, month after month, year after year, using church basements to do that. Our first meetings for the local were at the church that I'm a member of, and we stayed with that kind of location for many years, and then the United Way here in Dane County locally. So, and it was just speaking out. And I think I was the first to publicly speak out. They sort of used me as the mouth, so to speak.
But I also want to reference, Nancy, back in that day, one of the original and sad thoughts process was if you'd go see a doctor and you showed up with someone who had a brain disorder, it was viewed as the fault of the mother or parenting, right? So what these families did was say, yeah, you are totally wrong. This is not due to bad parenting. This is an illness. And I think that's one of the reasons Nancy's so adamant about the definition of illness, because the advocacy they placed forth was not only getting treatment, recognizing it, that this is something that deserves treatment, but also deserves research and study. We don't do as much advocacy now in the research and study. We do more in the legislative, trying to get the system to work better and continuum of care. But back then, we were just raw with no knowledge of really the origins of the illnesses, identifying the illnesses, and treating the illnesses with medication or anything that would allow us to better understand the illnesses.
Because back then in the 70s, if you were diagnosed with something like schizophrenia, what would usually happen? Would you be institutionalized?
Well, prior to that, you would. The emptying of the institutions was beginning in the 1960s, because there were medications, particularly Thorazine, which was very difficult, very hard on the bodies of individuals. But my son was one who had been prescribed Thorazine, not for very long, but he did receive that medication. But no, we were in the era where deinstitutionalization was in process. And I think it's fair to say that when the Mental Health Center Act of, I think, 1964 was initiated, the mental health centers were to have been for people with the serious brain disorders of mental illness. And we used to say, I don't mean an offense to mental health centers, but they were more working with persons whom in those days we called the walking wounded, rather than those with serious mental illness. Although there were staff who were understanding the difference. And and what was happening, see, there's so much to say. I hope I'm not just blabbering. I have 51 years of experience. So my son and I together have 102 years of experience with mental illness. But so anyway, there were people on the streets because there were not really sufficient, if any, community-based treatment programs. However, PACT, the Program of Assertive Community Treatment, which was developed in Mendota and out of Mendota, started in about 1971 with a one-year program, and then went to, people don't get well in 1 year when they're back in the community, that it needs to be ongoing. So my son has been a client of PACT for 48 years. And God willing, that will continue until he dies. But he was very, very productive for many years because of that. We need people who understand these illnesses, who will then fund the kinds of treatment and research and medication that is essential. So we're in an interesting time right now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How does it feel to watch AMI turn into NAMI and have so many chapters nationwide now? You have so many people aware of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. How does it feel to kind of watch that grow consistently?
Well, Mary Kay knows me and knows how I am. And I'm grateful for Mary Kay and the role that she plays and is able to play, and is the right person in the right place at this time. No question about it. Because I have this long history of involvement, I feel that we have not arrived where we need to arrive when we continue to have large numbers of individuals with serious mental illness in the prisons and in the jails. We have not done our job. I mean, we've done lots of jobs because everything about mental illness means you touch on everything in the society. Politically, human service-wise, research-wise, transportation-wise, money-wise. Can people live? Will they be able to live? No. We need a bigger army.
Yeah, I was curious, Mary Kay, can you speak on that as well?
Yes, and I just want to say the reason NAMI is what it is because moms like Nancy aren't satisfied and they keep driving force. So we always say in our office that Nancy's the little, bird on our shoulder that when we make decisions and things, we think, what will Nancy think? But I just want to say one thing that they started here in Madison as well, and across utilizing lots of mostly smart moms. There were plenty of dads involved, but
Right.
the energy and force was a lot of moms, was they created classes and support groups that are now nationwide. You can call any NAMI and you can find not only a family support group, but a peer support group. And we use the term peer right now in the mental health world to identify people living with a mental illness that are a mental health condition. And so we have support groups, we have classes. So we have a class that we call the grandmother of all of our classes, called NAMI Family to Family. Lots of families take that class, feel connected with other people that are going through a family struggle with somebody that they love that has a mental illness, and usually end up joining some of our family support groups because they feel that warmth, and not judgment. Because while the doctors years and years ago blamed the parents, it still occurs today. There's a lot of stigma, and I tend to use the word discrimination against people with mental illness.
Yes.
Right? So anyway, the classes and support groups, events, we just hosted our conference this last weekend where we had over 500 people show up that are engaged, whether they're family members, peers, or providers showing up at our conference. And this is replicated in all over the United States. So while Nancy's not satisfied where we are, I just want to acknowledge what an amazing organization it is across the United States to give that connection to families and peers who need to feel that comfort and be with other people that understand where they are.
The Cabin is brought to you by the Wisconsin Counties Association, and this week we are featuring Green Lake County. It's the third smallest Wisconsin county by area and was founded in 1858. The county seat is Green Lake, and it is home to Wisconsin's deepest natural inland lake with a maximum depth of 237 feet. Green Lake has several bays, coves, points, and peninsulas, offering endless opportunities for boating, fishing, kayaking, and lakeside sunsets. If you make it to the town Green Lake, make sure to explore the charming historic streets. There is plenty to do in Green Lake County. In the summer months, you have concerts in the park and ongoing special events, the town square, the historic Thrasher Opera House, and festivals festivals like Harvest Festival, wine walks, triathlons, the Wisconsin Chili Cook-Off, music at Town Tap, fishing events, and children's holiday events. There's also a dedicated bike path from Green Lake to Ripon for avid bikers out there. There is so much to do in Green Lake County. For more, go to wicounties.org.
The Cabin is also brought to you by the WCA Group Health Trust. Serving local governments and school districts, the WCA Group Health Trust partners closely with members to fulfill their employee health benefit obligations in a fiscally responsible manner. Learn more at wcaght.org.
So it's clear that we've come a long way, still a ways to go. I think, when people that understand mental illness, and obviously within this organization, we are kind of in a bubble sometimes because a lot of people don't understand what it is, especially if you've never experienced it. Can you kind of talk about what a lot of people maybe still don't understand about the brain and about mental illness?
Sure. There's a lot they don't understand because there's not enough research
Yeah.
invested in it, quite frankly. Like even during COVID, there was so much correlation to the inflammation in the brain during COVID and how it affected some people seriously with their brain and other things. And we just constantly need more research. There was a century of the brain research and a lot happened, but I feel like since then we've stopped the real scientific research that we did.
Right.
But I just want to reference one of the things that I'm delighted you're talking to us today, because our conference was called Let's Talk About Mental Illness. Because if you had the flu, you would just say, oh gosh, I had the flu last weekend and I was, tired and I'm exhausted and everything. No one would judge you. No one would think a thing about it. They would just move on and just go, oh, I'm so sorry. I hope you're feeling better, right? And the more we just talk about it and normalize the conversation, the better we're going to be. We don't judge people when they have a heart attack or, one of the funny things we did in our office during COVID, because what are you going to do during COVID? And everybody's, is I always had this fantasy and idea to do this because people who have a loved one who's going through a mental health crisis get hospitalized. We don't want them to, but that happens. But you know what happens when your loved one is hospitalized for a mental illness? No one talks to you. No one brings you a casserole. If you have a heart attack, break your leg, all these people send you cards, they bring you casserole, they love on you and they care for you. And we made a casserole cookbook and allowed and asked members to send in a story of how somebody caring for them during these crisis times was beneficial. And I just want to say, if you have a loved one, a neighbor, somebody that goes to church with you, a colleague who's going through a mental health crisis, or their family member is, you just respond the same way as if they, broke a leg or had a surgery or anything else. That family needs your support. That person needs your support. And the more we normalize the conversation and talk about it, the more likely we are to not live in that, black cloud of stigma and discrimination against people and the families. The families go through a lot that are taking care of those loved ones, and they need support from everyone, just like any other chronic illness.
I am kind of speechless because I kind of wish that people treated my family that way when I was going through a hard time. It's weird to think about it in that sense.
Well, and people, honestly, and this was addressed in one of the keynotes, there is kind of a natural fear of the unknown. People don't know how to respond. And I think giving these conversations that we're right now having gives those people the things of just having empathy and saying, I am so sorry you're going through that. How can I help? That sounds like it was a really stressful time. What can I do? Can I go to the grocery store for you? Whatever. Just understanding those people want you. They don't want you to avoid them. They're not embarrassed that their child has an illness. They are struggling and they want comfort and support and understanding. So I understand why they're afraid, right? It's the unknown to them. So I think really just having this conversation and, living that out yourself. If you know somebody that's going through that, live that out and give that example to them, because then they'll carry it on to the next person.
100%.
Pass it back, right?
For these parents, siblings, or even educators who want to support someone, what would your guys' advice be to them just to be there and support someone and let them know that you're there for them.
Well, what would it be if it were some other illness,
Exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. We just don't know enough about the brain. And I gave so many talks, and I got to a point where I decided, now this is my deciding, people didn't even understand that they had a brain within their cranium, that it was out here somewhere, and every now and then we touch it. Now that's weird, right? But that's how I began to feel, because people seem to be able to understand the heart, right? But they don't seem to understand that the brain is an organ of the body. And I don't know how, I mean, the signature education programs help with that, certainly, and help to explain to families what their relative is going through or probably going through. But the more education, the more we can do from the time people are really tiny, and I never got the name of an individual in Fond du Lac, but she was saying on some NPR or WPR program that, the young children understand better when we use the word brain, whatever it is they were teaching about or explaining about. And I don't think, I being 90 years old, I don't think I ever heard the word brain used in growing up.
Well, I'll go on my soapbox because I've learned from the best. I can't stand the word behavioral.
I either. It's got to go.
It's got to go. If you go into a hospital,
It
used to be a psychiatric unit, just like if you went into the cardiac unit or you went to the obstetrician unit. Now psychiatric units are called behavioral health. Behavioral. That demeans it as a real
choice
scientific diagnosis that you need to research, study, and care for.
Yeah.
And it sends me over the edge that we use the term behavioral for a real illness, for a real organ in our brain. It's not our behavioral organ. It is our brain, and we should call it that and get to the scientific, because we're never going to get funding for a behavioral health thing. We're going to get funding for a brain disorder, and we need to identify it, embrace it, and talk about it.
Absolutely.
And we just keep avoiding it by saying mental health condition or, behavioral health. And I know maybe that makes some other people feel well, but it doesn't for me, because I feel like we just keep avoiding and walking away and walking away and walking away. So I don't like the word behavioral, and
Neither do I.
yeah,
It has to go.
yeah. I would just like to return to what it is. It's brain disease, brain disorder, just like you say, kidney disease, kidney disorder. You don't say, I don't even know what you would use.
Elimination disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm learning a lot talking to you
Mhm.
both, especially kind of how to approach the conversation about mental health versus mental illness.
Oh,
I
good.
think that is what is difficult for people that don't even have a baseline. I'm kind of curious, how would you suggest, if someone thinks they're struggling, like how people out there that think they're struggling, but it's hard to know if something's actually going on, like what do you suggest people do with the steps they take to figure out, is this a mental illness, or do I need to do some coping strategies? Like how do you kind of decipher?
So, number one, I just want to emphasize this a lot. Asking for help is brave. It's smart. It's wise. Asking for help is not a weakness. In fact, if you don't ask for help, the people around you are the ones that suffer.
Mhm.
The people you work with are the ones that suffer. It is smart and wise and strong to ask for help, number one. Asking for help sooner makes the process of recovery so much quicker. If you wait and you wait and you wait and you wait, the condition gets worse. It affects more people around you, and the consequences are worse. And quite frankly, for something like serious mental illnesses like schizophrenia, the earlier you get treatment, the less brain damage that occurs.
Mhm.
First episode psychosis, if you experience or someone you know is experiencing some delusions, hallucinations, and seems to not be doing well. Understand the quicker you get treatment, you save that brain from injury, because technically schizophrenia that goes on for a long period of time damages the brain.
Right.
And so the earlier you get help, the earlier you get treatment, the better the recovery and outcome. We have tons of people in our NAMI organization who have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, working, taking, able to do those things because they got early care. It's the people that don't get that early care that takes a really long time. And that's not just serious mental illness. That can be chronic depression. That can be generalized anxiety that goes on for a long time, that you end up, having other conditions with that. And unfortunately, a lot of people use negative coping skills, right? Drugs, alcohol, other things to deal with those things. So my number one thing is ask for help. Number two is you have to be patient in our current system, because we have a limited number of providers in our state, especially in the rural areas. But the earlier you ask, it might take you a little while to get in, and reach out and ask for help. We have online and in-person support groups. You don't have to wait. People utilize those as interims to get that support. We have peer support specialists at NAMI that you can talk to. In Wisconsin, we have something called respite centers. They are free for up to 7 days. There's 7 of them across the state. You can go there. There's certified peer specialists. You just hang out with them and they talk to you and give you some support that you need. And there's several options available. And of course, currently that we're fighting for to continue funding for is 988, which is a crisis suicide line that is doing an amazing job here in Wisconsin. There's 77 counselors trained. You call, you don't have to be suicidal. You can be not feeling well. You can be in a crisis. It used to be called the suicide crisis line. You don't have to be suicidal to call that 988 number. So, and you can be a family member, because you might just need resources and information. So if you are concerned, they can connect you with your county services, and other things. And I missed answering your question earlier about what family and loved ones can do. It takes a lot of patience, but you just have to listen empathically and listen to them, and put down your phone, turn off the TV and listen to what they're saying. And really, we call it active listening. I think some people call it interview listening or something, and just really listen to what they're saying and connect them with help. There's resources all over the place. If you need it, contact your local NAMI, contact NAMI Wisconsin, and we can connect you with your local resources.
There's a lot of amazing resources. I do love that this month kind of promotes those resources. I think sometimes people don't know where to go. Something I really appreciate about both of you is you're both fighters and the job is not done. So we've talked about how the job is not done. There is so much more work to do. I do want to talk about, though, this idea of hope, because I think sometimes it can be really scary when you're going through something. I know for my own personal story, a few years ago, I was in a really bad place and I did get treatment and I'm in a much better place now. And I was diagnosed with clinical depression and I never thought I would be as happy as I am now with the treatment. So there are a lot of stories about people getting help. And there is this misconception that even if you're diagnosed with clinical depression or schizophrenia or bipolar, that you're going to have a really difficult life. It is difficult. But can you talk about how with treatment, people are able to live really fulfilling and happy lives?
Well, I guess I could a little bit about my son. Dylan and I did a lot of educating. We did a lot of it together, but he also did a lot of it alone. And he worked part-time at what became Journey Mental Health Center. And he was really able to do that because he is an ongoing client in PACT, the Program of Assertive Community Treatment. So he worked for 20 years part-time, and through the years he gave about 760 different presentations, well before the signature programs of national NAMI had come online. So, and did a lot of rallying and a lot of meeting with elected officials and on many, many committees. So a very productive life. But then, of course, ended up with cancer. And that's when we began to see, how you're treated in other parts of the system. Some very good, some very bad. So we've sort of seen it from age 18 to now he'll be 70 this year. So that makes me pretty old, right? I mean, so,
Well, and we have many examples on our
Yeah.
current board.
right, right.
People, one of our, the vice president of our board, Cody Green, was
Right.
diagnosed with schizophrenia many years ago, 7 or 8 years ago. He is now a social media influencer.
Mhm.
He's just written a book about his experience in the workplace. He does talks all over the nation right now. This is a person living well in recovery,
Mhm.
right? And we call that recovery because it doesn't mean he's not taking care of himself and taking potentially medication, maybe seeing a therapist, all of those things. But it's no different than any other chronic illness. Again, sorry to pick on diabetes, but somebody with diabetes, somebody with respiratory issues or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have to take care of and check on your mental health, right?
Mhm.
But you can live so well. We have other board members, bipolar disorder, Maria received her law degree, now works at Mendota as a patient advocate.
Right.
There are plenty of people and plenty of examples of hope and recovery. And they say 85% of people diagnosed with a serious mental illness can live well in recovery. I just think it's really hopeful if you can build a plan, a toolbox of what we call coping skills, and also a treatment plan or a crisis plan that includes your family or loved ones or whoever you identify as family around you, to have that toolbox sitting there. But go forward and move forward, because lots and lots of people live with mental illness and live healthy, happy lives. They just need to check on themselves and take care of themselves like the rest of us. So again, ask for help. Ask for help. It's okay. It's brave. It's smart. It's wise to ask for help early if you are concerned. And if it's not something, then you've just checked in on your mental health and it's all okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish we could talk to you for days, honestly, but unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, or any kind of last message to people that are out there watching this and possibly struggling and not sure what to do?
Well, I would just reiterate that I would like people to feel comfortable about making contact with appropriate individuals or organizations or agencies. I think contacts with NAMI Wisconsin, one of the 22 local organizations, or the national.
We all have, again, our own toolbox. And I think keep trying. If the first therapist you go to doesn't work, try another one.
Right.
Keep trying, because we're all individuals, we're all unique, and we all need to find what works for us. But be patient with yourself and be patient with the process, because we all are different and unique, and we're all worthy of getting that care and support that we need. So please just go to namiwisconsin.org. We have links to local affiliates, who your local affiliate is, and almost all of them have a website that's linked on our webpage as well.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for coming on. It was great to chat with you and learn a little bit more. Cabin listeners, that is all we have for today. We will list all of these resources in the description below. So if someone you love is struggling, we will have all of those listed for you. But until next time, we'll see you later.
Bye.
Come get away and experience gaming in a whole new way. Ho-Chunk Gaming offers a range of adventure and entertainment by offering gaming, excitement, and relaxing accommodations all in one place. Whether it's discovering your favorite slot machine, doubling down on their tables, or rolling your luck with the throw of the dice, this will be the getaway you've been searching for. While you're there, sign up to become a free member of their rewards club to receive our special members-only discounts, promotions, and so much more. Ho-Chunk Gaming, where the grown-ups play big. Your grown-up getaway. Locations in Madison, Wisconsin Dells, Black River Falls, Nakusa, Toma, and Wittenberg. Must be 21 to gamble. Building your dream space is more than just constructing a quality building. It's about creating a unique place where memories are made. At Pinot Buildings, they take that seriously. Whether you're looking for a new barn, home, garage, or even commercial structure, Pinot Buildings offers a fully customizable options to meet your needs. Their experienced team brings expert craftsmanship and attention to detail with every project. and they won't stop until you're 100% satisfied with your new space. With Pinot, there's no need to compromise. You get a building that's uniquely yours, built to stand the test of time. From start to finish, Pinot Buildings goes the extra mile to guide you through the process and ensure your project goes smoothly. Ready to create a space you'll love? Visit pinotbuildings.com today to get in touch and start designing your dream structure.
Today's episode of The Cabin was hosted by Andrea Belke and Megan Christian and produced by Andrea Belke. Audio engineering by Nick Cardarella and video teasers by Andrea Belke and Megan Christian with social media by Megan Christian. The Cabin is a production brought to you by Discover MediaWorks. To learn more, head to discovermediaworks.com and don't forget to leave a review.